All right, hello everybody. We're back for another episode of the Fireside Chronicles. I'm Jason, Suburban Bourbon Dad on Instagram, Suburban Bourbon Dad, and we got Burks behind us, Tequila Lovers Anonymous, which everybody is probably watching because they are already following on Instagram as well. So welcome back to another episode. Not sure this is going to be the world's longest episode because it is freezing cold outside. In the Chicago area today, we're probably at a real feel of about 12 degrees,
Yes.
Something like that. And so cold that I've actually got my whiskey glass on the ground next to the heater so that it doesn't get too cold, because this is a bottle right here that I have been very much looking forward to trying. The Old Forester 150th Anniversary Batch 2. It's the one I was lucky enough to land. If you're not familiar with the story, Old Forester is the world's first bottled bourbon, put together about 150 years ago by George Garvin Brown as a response to the fact that people were just selling bourbon, or quote-unquote bourbon, straight out of barrels, and adding all sorts of messed up stuff to it that was getting people sick, killing people, rendering them blind, infirm, all sorts of issues. And George Garvin Brown came out and said, you know what? I'm going to seal this up in bottles. I'm going to sign my name to the bottle. And because of that, you're going to know that this is quality, this is safe to drink, this is good. And all that happened just about 150 years ago. This year they put out 3 batches of this, appropriately named batches 1, 2, and 3. At my local shop, I was given the option to choose. The reviews I had read where the batch 2 was the one to go with. So here we are. Old Forester, 150th anniversary batch number 2. Super hyped up bottle. Very, very well reviewed, as are, let's be honest, most things made by Brown-Forman or Old Forester in the bourbon world. Little known fact, Brown-Forman also owns Jack Daniels. And today I was, which of course is not a bourbon, I was fortunate enough today to look at the color on that.
Oh, wow.
To also score I'm going to pour one for you, Burks, as well here. The Jack Daniels limited release barrel proof rye, which also just hit Chicagoland, and we're all very excited. I'm going to probably try that one out on a future show. And you want to talk about what we got over here?
Yeah, so as you guys know, if you've ever watched this before, I am not a Jose Cuervo fan. I don't drink much Blanco either, but that is a special bottle. So that Jose Cuervo is from, I believe it's from 1960, is when that bottle was bought. I had a friend that came over and we had conversations, some drinks yesterday, and he actually just gave me that bottle. Stacy just gave me that bottle.
Shout out to Stacy.
You know, and you know, with it being from 1960, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and try it. Tried it, and this thing is absolutely fantastic. Like it is nothing like the Jose Cuervo of today.
Yeah, and that's an extremely common situation. You know, like the reality is, and I just finished reading this book, not to bring it back to bourbon because I do want to hear more about that. Pappyland, which was basically the story of the Van Winkle family, and you know, Julian Van Winkle and his dad Pappy, and you know, all that stuff. And one thing that is a theme throughout this book is that at a certain point in the liquor industry, it got taken over by accountants and marketing guys, and they let the quality go to shit.
Sounds right.
They figured they could sell just as much, if not more, with a great story as opposed to a great taste. And so when you get a bottle of old spirits of any kind, tequila, whiskey, whatever, from the 60s, from the 50s, and it's still drinkable and in good shape, it's always going to be better. It's always going to be better because it's just not the same stuff.
Yeah. I mean, and that is a testament to it. I don't know if it's drinkable, but I'm drinking it right now. Even though it's Blanco, Stacy actually has, I think he says he has an añejo of it that he's going to bring it over on Sunday. So I'm excited to try that for Sunday. So yeah, I mean, should be a great pour.
Well, I'm excited to give that a try. Maybe tonight, maybe Sunday. We'll kind of see how that goes. Football Sunday, we're running out of weeks.
Right.
Uh-oh.
And then we have what I was drinking on last
I
night.
need your fire, buddy.
All right, cool.
Looks like my,
See Jason's catching skills here.
yep, did
There
it.
we go.
Go ahead, say that again. What
So
you-
the El Nacimiento, I guess is how you would say it. So we get that. That was what I just posted on. I was going to post on it yesterday. I did a reel on it on Wednesday, but yesterday was just a bad day for me, so I didn't post on it until today. So you can go and read my review of that. The Zunia Black 2 is the extrañejo of the Zunia. It's an organic tequila. It is absolutely delicious. More peppery side of things. Also have a review of that as one of my earlier posts, so you can go ahead and check that out too. But yeah.
Awesome. I'll throw down on what I'm smoking here. This is Tortuga Edición Limitada, 2011. It goes for $8 to $10. I found it, in a batch of cigars given to us once again by our friend Thor from Cigar Press, who we talk about all the time. And apparently, it's a true limited edition and pretty rare-ish cigar. But I don't know that too much about them, other than went on a couple sites and saw you can still buy them. This is the torpedo version. I guess there were 3 different versions of it.
Nice.
It's a medium to full bodied cigar, and I guess I'll have to get back to you on the tasting notes, as I'm currently reeling from the wonderful Old Forester 150th Batch 2. It's 126.4 proof, and it tastes like, it's almost got a feel of like an Old Forester 1910, but so much more complex, super, super deep. There's a lot of maple on my first taste, a lot of candy. You get that brown sugar in there. You get a little bit on the front end of the famous Old Forester banana, which, as Burks here knows, when we tried that birthday bourbon from 2020, a lot of banana in that.
Oh yeah.
Banana is a really common tasting note on Old Forester bourbons across the board. Like, it just depends on which one, based on how much you're looking at.
So I haven't had a taste of it, so I'm gonna try to finagle myself.
Finagle away.
Let's try to get some of this because I have to try it.
Man. Yeah, you definitely get that. Looking at some brown sugar. There's a lot of cherry on the end, but the cherry kind of gets stronger as you go through. It's kind of always there. This is a really enjoyable glass, and I've held on to it for a couple of months. I think I picked it up sometime in November, and been kind of waiting. And today, this was a crazy week, I think, for both Burks and I.
Yeah.
Good, bad, and ugly across the board. But I'm finishing the week with a limited edition cigar and a really excellent pour of bourbon. So cheers to you, Burks.
Cheers.
And welcome back, everybody. We're happy to have all you guys watching us on our website, tequilala27.com, tequilala27.com, tequila_lovers_anonymous over on Instagram, or me, Suburban Bourbon Dad, on Instagram. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We got to get to our banter for the week. We got something huge happened today that we got to talk about. I mean, I've been itching to talk about this with someone all week, but we lost Hammer and Hank today.
Man.
Hank Aaron, may he rest in peace for all time, as one of the greatest hitters that ever lived.
Oh my God.
Greatest humans that ever lived. This is one of the all-time greats, one of the last ones left, and what can you? You're the baseball guy even more so than me, and I want to let you dive in because I know you had some strong feelings about this today.
He was one of my heroes. As a black baseball player, going through, not only going through the civil rights era, going through segregation, going through death threats because he's breaking, your guy, the Babe's record, single season home run record, and then well, not single season, but all time home run record. You know, he was an icon. You know, I wouldn't have been able to get as far as I got in baseball without him. And I will say that 100% of the time. You know, he was, when you got up to the plate, you played home run derby as a kid, especially a black kid, you wanted to be Hank Aaron. You know, it was just one of those things. You know, other kids wanted to be Babe. You know, we wanted to be Hank Aaron. And to see Hammer and Hank pass away, it hurts. You know, it almost brought me to tears. The passing of Bob Gibson brought me to tears. He was my favorite baseball player of all time.
Yeah.
And Hank Aaron was probably my number 3 favorite baseball player of all time.
He's this guy that he was larger than life in a time where, and excuse me when I speak on race a little bit, he was larger than life at a time where it was really, really hard for a black sports hero to be larger than life.
Yeah.
You know, there were only I think the best quote I saw, and I don't know the quote exactly off the top of my head, but I think Muhammad Ali said something to the effect of, he's the only person I admire more than I admire myself.
Yep.
And I'm sure I'm butchering that to hell.
No, that's
But when you got, you know, one of the other most larger than life black athletes of all time, if not the guy, saying, and let's face it, Muhammad Ali, a little bit full of himself.
Yeah,
you know?
he was.
I mean, I think we all
He
know
was,
that.
yeah.
You know, for good reason. I mean, he's the
Right.
greatest, and we're all boxing fans here too. But when a guy like Muhammad Ali says, "I admire this man more than I admire myself," that
huge.
I mean, I think that's really the only quote that's needed to talk about Hammer and Hank. I mean, he was the man.
I mean, we can
You know?
we can leave it there because
Yeah,
you know I'm getting a little choked up because he was one of my
Forever an
favorite.
asterisk next to Barry Bonds or anybody else you want to talk about.
Yeah.
But, you know, really in my mind, as a guy my age, I'm 46 years old, you know, I certainly don't really remember Hank Aaron playing to any, you know, real degree. But I will say at 46 years old, there's, you know, to me, there's 2 home run kings in baseball. It's Babe Ruth and Hank Aaron.
Yeah.
And you could pretty much interchange those 2 guys.
Yeah.
You know, and it would never. I mean, a guy like Bonds, who embarrassed the sport and embarrassed himself, you know, certainly would never, in my mind, factor into the equation.
No.
So,
No, he would have never touched Hank Aaron's record. He would have never touched Babe Ruth's record without the roids. Let's be
never,
honest here.
never. He might have been. That's the funny thing about Bonds, and we can move away from Hank and talk about Bonds a little bit. But the funny thing about him is he might have been the greatest baseball player of all time had he never touched a roid.
Yeah, I mean,
He was on track to be a Hall of Famer anyway.
He was a 40-40 guy.
You know,
A 40-40, 30-30 guy before he even touched a steroid.
and he got jealous of Sosa and McGuire and decided he needed to equal their, you know, what I term a bunch of bullshit.
Right.
You know, it's ridiculous.
I mean, let's be honest. Sosa's never in the conversation about being a Hall of Famer without roids.
No.
Mark McGuire is on the outside of being in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he's like an
without
Andy
roids.
Pettit vibe, like may or may not make it. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
he was okay. You know, he's a
Right.
good player, really good player.
Right.
You know, he was a hyped rookie. You know, came
Yeah.
out and delivered, and this was before the steroids and all that stuff. So I don't know, man. So I gotta know, have you tried this Old Forester yet? Did you take your
I
first
have.
sip?
It's absolutely delicious. You know.
Yeah. I mean, for those of you that are not familiar, there were 3 different batches of this. They all hovered in the 40 to 60 barrel range.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, you're talking about, on a good end, you maybe get 150 to 175 bottles per barrel. So you can do your own math and figure out this is a pretty limited edition situation. You know, couple, you know, several thousand bottles, and that's really it. You know, there's not, you know, maybe 10,000 bottles per barrel.
Yeah.
And in a world where bourbon is, you know, sought after the way it is, that's not very many.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
especially for something that's never going to be made again. This is a one of a kind situation. So,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I put that Jose Cuervo in the same as this, where it's just like, look, only select people can pour this because.
oh, it's right up there with my pappy and my everything else. I mean,
Yeah.
this is a special one. I'm never going to get another because it's gone. I mean, unless I happen to stumble into it at some random store on an upcoming work trip.
Yeah.
Which who knows when the hell that's going to be.
Right.
So it's just a beautiful, beautiful whiskey. It feels great in the mouth. 126 proof. You can swish it around in there without too much burn.
Yeah.
And you can taste all of the separation between the nose, the palate, and the finish. Distinct flavors. You get that pepper on the end, which may be masked a little bit by the cigar, but on my first pour, I definitely picked that out. And a lot of that is one of the reviews I read before I tried it said maple, but candy, not syrup. And I'm definitely picking that up. Although I do get that maple syrup vibe in there.
Yeah.
So this is a special pour, and it's been a hell of a week, and we decided that a special pour was warranted. 2 special pours, as it turns out.
Yep.
Stacy hit me up about some old school Crown Royal too.
Yeah, he also has some old school Jack too. He's gonna bring.
Yeah.
So what we'll do, guys, is we'll post a picture. Each one of us will post a picture to our IGs on Sunday with the old school Cuervo, old school Jack. If we get the old school Crown, definitely post that because it's just stuff from the 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s that we're just not gonna find anymore.
You're never gonna find it. I had a couple months back, a neighbor of mine, older lady that lives right down the block here. I saw her outside and she goes, "You're into the bourbon, right?" And I said, "Yeah, I love bourbon." And she goes, "My husband passed away and I've got a lot of bourbon inside. If you want any, you can come see." And I went in her house, and I'll have to bring that out for an episode too, because I want to finish that before it goes bad. And she said, "Come on over and look." So I went over. There's no bourbon, right? Like it was
right.
a Canadian club, some Greek ouzo type spirit, like nothing in there, right?
Yeah.
She just didn't know what she was talking about. But buried down the bottom of this box was this thing called President's Choice. It was a little pint, about this big, and it was clearly from 1960 something. And I said, "Look, I would love to have this. I have to be honest with you. I could sell it right now on the open market for like $500. And if you would prefer that I sell it and give you the money, I'm more than happy to do that for you, whatever." And she said, "What are you going to do with it if I give it to you?" I said, "I'm going to drink it. Because I don't get an opportunity, much like this Cuervo,
Right.
I don't get an opportunity to drink these dusty old bottles ever.
Right.
So I'm going to pop this thing open and see what's going on." And I brought that actually to my dude TJ over at Kenwood Liquors. We cracked it together because he was the guy that I could think of that would really appreciate it. And that thing is magnificent.
Wow.
I mean, it's a different time.
Yeah.
They made spirits in a different way.
Well, they made it. They made it because they wanted to impress you. They made it because they wanted their shit to actually taste delicious, as opposed to just making money off of it.
Yeah, and President's Choice actually is from the Brown-Forman family, and it's a brand that they actually still put out to this day, except it's very different. Mm-hmm. President's Choice now is a gift shop only release at the Old Forester Distillery that the president of the company goes and chooses a barrel every so often when he finds one that he thinks is the President's Choice. He will put it out, and there's no rhyme or reason to it. It's just every once in a while there's a barrel that he goes, that one is special, and they put it out as President's Choice. And you unless you happen to be at the gift shop at the time they put them out, you're not getting one. But I'm a huge fan of Old Forester. I love everything they do. 1910 and 1920 in the Whiskey Row series are 2 of the best, easily accessible, affordable bottles of bourbon on the planet Earth. And I know right now that there's a lot of people in the bourbon community that are flipping me off through their computer screen or their television or wherever they're watching me, going, "Don't fucking tell anybody," because they don't want anybody to know, because then it becomes allocated and it becomes a whole thing, and you got to try and find it. But if you're a beginner to bourbon and you're just digging into this world, Old Forester 1910, Old Forester 1920 for the higher proof version, those are as good as you're going to find to get you into the hobby.
Nice.
and to get you into the true enjoyment of bourbon. So last thing before we wrap up, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about football. We got 2 huge games, conference championships this Sunday. I want to start with Kansas City and Buffalo, and I want to talk about how somehow, if any of you watched the game and watched the play last week, Patrick Mahomes was concussed. I didn't see him hit the ground. I didn't see him hit another player, but he could not get up. He was wobbly getting back on his feet. I watched the play 15 times this week. I still can't find a spot where he hit his head anywhere. And today, after that wobbly ass rise from the ground, he was cleared. He will play on Sunday. I personally thought the Bills had a shot before he was injured.
Right.
Bills are a damn good team.
Yeah.
Stephon Diggs is a monster, right?
Yeah.
They've got the running game. They've got the quarterback. They've got it all. They've got, Diggs as the wide receiver. They got it all. Now Mahomes is maybe going to be, 75% at best? What are your thoughts, man? What do you think is going to happen on Sunday?
I think that I think NFL always has flair for dramatics, and I think that they're overplaying Mahomes' injury, and I think he's going to come out full 100%, and he's going to be fantastic.
My only thing is watching him get his wobbly ass up off the ground. He almost fell over.
Could have been hungover.
He could have been hungover. Cheers to me being hungover tomorrow. And then, of course, game 2. So your pick is
Kansas City.
All right, I'm going to go Bills. We'll see what happens. I just something about this Bills team feels special. It's hard to say.
We'll put a shot on it.
We'll put a
shot bet on that.
And then the other game, of course, you got to talk about Rodgers. You got to talk about Brady. Brady looked like he was 32 years old last week against the Saints. The man somehow does not age. All of us Chicagoland area Bear fan type of people. I'm a Giants fan, but of course, my heart is in Chicago, so I want Chicago to do well. Therefore, I hate Green Bay. I'm also a Giants fan, so I kind of hate Tom Brady. This game is going to be like the only way it could have a good result is if a plane crashed into the stadium and killed both teams. I don't know. But I'd have to say that Rodgers has had a season, man. And Tampa Bay is certainly firing on all cylinders right now. But I gotta think the Pack is going to pull this one out.
I've learned to never pick against Brady unless he's going against the Giants.
I'm glad you added that addendum on the end there because I was going to have to throw my cigar in.
That literally has been literally has become my rule of thumb when it comes to picking against Tom Brady.
It's not a bad rule of thumb.
Because the only people that beat him are the Eagles on a fucking trick play of all trick plays, and the Giants.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
So and when it comes to the Giants, the Giants beat them when they were perfect. So, I can't even say anything about the Eagles because that was just pure luck. So, as much as I think Rodgers is a bad motherfucker, I just have to go with Brady. I just can't pick against Brady.
Well, one thing's for sure. These are probably the 2 best possible conference championship games in terms of quality of teams and the game we're going to see. Not necessarily the teams I wanted to see there, but certainly these are going to be some massive games. And they're going to be a lot of fun to watch. And we'd love if you guys jump in on the after show on the Instagram. We're gonna be looking for your picks too, and it's gonna be a fun weekend. We got a bunch of food lined up. We got the usual garage crew. I had fun yesterday photoshopping Bernie Sanders into our garage crew photo.
That was amazing. I
cannot get over how good this bourbon is. It's really insane.
Well, let's end this and go to the after show before you start to mumble.
Yeah, exactly. 126 proof. It's not going to be long. So we'll jump with the last bit. We'll just say thanks for watching. Visit the website, tequilala27.com. We got merch up there. We got all sorts of things happening. This is going to be the week you're going to see your first bourbon review. I've already decided what it's going to be. I'm not going to clue you in. but that's going to pop up in the Suburban Bourbon Dad section. You can hit Tequila _lovers _anonymous on Instagram, Suburban Bourbon Dad on Instagram. I'm Jason, this is Burks, and we will see you next week.